Thank you, Shocks. I mean, we had that extra delay to get into the game, but boy, was it worth it. What an incredible showing there by Origen. And I have to say that the three of you have some explaining to do.
For sure.
All right, so let's take a look at the early game.
So the plot armor came down on the Expected.
No!
He donned it, went 6-1 and 9 on Oriana, and everybody just lined. No. They actually played that
let's talk about
well.
Expected, because it was someone that we did hit as being the weak link for the team and was a question mark coming in and how he would be able to stack up against Godv. And as you mentioned, he showed up. He stepped it up huge in this game.
Yeah, European mid laners seem to always deliver when they go to international competition. Questions at MSI about Febivin, comes in, solo kills Faker. Expected always seems to step up his game around Worlds and around international play, and it just seems to be they hit the grindstone and they come out swinging.
The thing is, Expected champion pool didn't get targeted. He was put in a matchup that he's very comfortable in. He's playing the Oriana, a champion he's been doing well on before, with TP, which is fine in the Lulu matchup.
Well, for whatever reason, they did get rid of the Varus first ban, which is technically in his pool.
We should go back and kind of revisit this pick and ban here because it was quite interesting, especially Origen targeting TBQ. So they came in with that in mind. Now, this put LGD in a situation where they had a choice to first pick the Elise here, and they could have saved Gragas for later in the draft. They made the choice for the Vi. Now, the Vi, I don't really have a problem with because you can shut down the Kalista, the Malphite-Vi combo, and try and win the game that way. The problem was really a lot of these losing lane matchups. And remember that Lulu is definitely a flex pick for LGD. Acorn could have easily played that champion, but they chose to put it in the mid lane with more initiation alongside the Malphite. But that also set up the Vlad pick, which Malphite's not really going to stop a Vlad split push.
Yeah, everybody ended up, like you're talking about losing lanes. They aren't exactly winning or losing lanes there. They end up going even, and then they reach team fights where that's where it really prevailed for me, was you're against a triple threat as a mono threat composition with the Kog'Maw.
But here's the thing.
Wait, you need enough. Hold on 1 second. You need enough engage to kill Kalista, and then enough damage after your engage to kill a Vladimir, which you don't have that mixture of with one threat.
Understood, but we saw a lane swap come through anyway.
Yes.
So even choosing worse lanes, we saw the lane swap came through, which Origen ended up playing very well. I know you have thoughts on the way that Amazing specifically.
It's like Amazing played in a way that he didn't show on the map at all. That puts pressure on all the lanes, and there was no play from TBQ at all. He just showed up top lane when they were supposed to commit for the dive on the Vladimir that had no flash. They had to make sure that Elise shows up so Akan could do something. He didn't do anything for 3 minutes, which is horrible.
Yes, and not only that, but it was TBQ repeatedly showing on a tri-brush ward in the top side. So Soaz, he knew exactly how safe he was, and Acorn was not. And maybe this is a problem, one of the problems that you see with having these mixed language rosters, because it just looked like TBQ and Acorn were doing entirely different things in that lane swap, and Acorn wasn't willing to pull the trigger to have a teleport to maybe attempt to dive in the top side, and instead just ended up kind of running around the map or just sitting in Fountain at the beginning of that game. Meanwhile, Soaz was just picking up farm under the turret. So you can say, okay, LGD got the first turret in the top side, but it came at a very dear price in terms of top lane farm.
Now, ultimately, we did see Origen play out that lane swap well, take advantage of TBQ in certain areas, but Imp on the other side of things on that Kog'Maw was doing everything in his power through the mid game to ramp up 4-0 at one point, bringing us all the way up into that 34-minute mark, that crucial 34-minute mark, where we saw a team fight in the mid lane that completely swung things in Origen's favor.
Yeah, and that's the big setup, right? If you're going to play. If you choose to play Juggernaut with no other source of damage, remember, we used to see the Ku Tigers do this, Lulu mid, Maokai top instead. Sometimes they use Rumble, but it means that the crowd control has to be used perfectly because of that one damage threat. So that's going to be, I think, a big part of this team fight.
Yeah, it has to be on the right person, too, here. Never, under any circumstance, should you be Vi ulting the support of a Kalista. He's trying to stop the ultimate from Annie coming through, but it ends up just getting the Annie thrown in onto Imp, who then gets locked into place perfectly for the shockwave. The setup there, if you had ultied Niels, you lock him out of his Fate's Call, and then you see Acorn actually goes after Niels afterwards, and he's so low HP. If you had actually focused him, you may have stopped that catastrophe from happening to your team, but Origen played the Wombo combo really well.
Yeah, beautiful team fight from Origen, no doubt. And we didn't even see what the setup to that was, which was they were sieging the mid turret, and what was what LGD was trying to do was set up a pincer attack because they had Acorn TP to that turret. I would not recommend trying to flank with a Juggernaut. Juggernaut is like a cannon. It's a piece of artillery. You set it up, it points in one direction, it doesn't move. You know, you can't turn it very fast. You have to all be together because otherwise it just doesn't work. So without that extra threat there, you're going to find the Kog'Maw in a very vulnerable state. That said, it was played very well, but you have to talk about TBQ here. There were 10 kills in this game. He was 0-6-1. He had a 10% kill contribution rate as a jungler. That is unacceptable.
Right, so that is that weakness that we're looking at for LGD. Now, that does it for Group D, so let's take a look at the standings over there. KT, Rollstar, and Origen are up 1-0, while the LPL's LGD and North America's TSM are still looking for a win. And so I'm going to turn back to you guys for a final word here, which is, given the result of that game, what does this do in terms of the ecosystem of this group and the way it might play out, having seen LGD drop that game?
It's always so hard to jump to conclusions when you're seeing one game, because then you're just inferring so much from it, and it could just be an outlier. I mean, I have bad games. Everybody has bad games. And TBQ there and the communication may have just been a small breakdown. They still have ways to recover. They were never completely out of that game until way later on. But I feel like this does put Origen in that top spot where you're just saying, could they be in there as number 2? There's more weighted on it because they definitely came here to play.
I'd say they made more than a good case for themselves coming out of the group in the top 2. Now, coming up next, the international wildcard, Bangkok Titans will take to the stage against Season 3 world champions SK Telecom T1. There's more Worlds coming your way when we return.
A little bit too early. EpicSkillshot takes a lot of damage, and that's going to be kill now.
There we go. PYL comes in. There's the knock
goes in. And now here comes the rest of the fight. There's the hard time. They've caught amazing. EpicSkillshot is okay. Big old shockwave. For that shockwave. Nice. Good job. Wild growth already used on the amp. There's a knockup onto Amazing. Shockwave coming in. Soaz gets in the back with a big Hemo Plague. And Soaz extinguishes the ghost of his past. He will slowly but surely get enough damage down. He has to. Soaz says, I can do it better. And Origen beat LGD.